on the latest development, especially in schools right now. There seems to be a spike, in the attacks, on, schools, especially those in the vulnerable areas. What's your perspective? What do you think is happening?
Okay, in simple terms, I think it's a reflection of the vulnerability that exists in our schools. Targets, in this instance, young people ranging from the age of 11, 12 up until, depending if they're in tertiary institutions, to their early 20s, are gathered in one place. And it's a place that is considered a soft target. The vulnerabilities are high. The kind of protection that should exist in those educational institutions, unfortunately, don't exist. So the number of threat actors that we have, and unfortunately, we are seeing an increasing number of threat actors. When Chibok happened, the number of threat factors were probably around 10. Today, the number of threat actors that we have are almost about 80 within the country.
That's high.
Yeah, it has increased. The second factor is that they are able to collect ransom, because usually the motive is economic. When they carry out the abduction of these students, they demand for ransom, and sadly, the ransom is paid, and so that provides an incentive for the abduction, in the future. Number three is the very keen deployment of security forces in the rural areas. In the urban areas, you probably see a relatively, robust security presence. But as you move further into the rural areas, you see this very keen deployment. So that also increases the vulnerability. Number four is the existence of mountainous and forested parts that ordinarily we can call ungoverned spaces. Okay. But then they are not necessarily ungoverned, because they belong to either the federal, if it's a forest reserve, or if it's just a forest, it belongs to the state government. So constitutionally, there should be governance there. But sadly, we are working to a situation where a lot of these locations do not have adequate government presence. So what happens is this threat actors, depending on who they are, abduct these children and then go into these forest areas, keep them, start the negotiation process, collect the ransom, and then release these kids before they go to the next one. The fifth element, which I think is also very important now, depending again on the threat factor that we're discussing. In the Northeast, it is ideological non-state armed groups, the Jamaat al-Ahl Sunnah al-Dawat wal-Jihad, or the Islamic State in West Africa province, or even Ansaru, or if it's in the Northwest, it could be Lakurawas, or Mahmudawas, or Darul Salam. Now, depending on which one we're discussing, okay, if it's the ideological one, they are against Western education. So that could be an incentive why they will attack. If it's the bandit groups in mostly North Central and Northwest, where the most recent one occurred, the one in Niger, North Central, the one in Kebbi, Northwest. Now, if it's those ones, their motive is usually commercial. But there is also a cultural element that, unfortunately, we are not discussing enough. So these groups are siloed into camps, and each camp has a leader. And the profile of that leader is usually determined by the type of activity he conducts. The higher, for instance, he is able to take abductees, the more his profile increases. So sadly, and I don't mean to be a harbinger of bad news, what happened in Niger State is the first time in our history that we're seeing this huge number of abductees, almost about 300. Yeah. So the perpetrator of that act, his cultural profile has increased. That means other camps too, commanders in those camps will be seeking to outbeat him going forward, to also do something higher, so that their cultural kind of profile would increase. So these are some of the factors that have led to where we are. Perhaps in the course of our conversation, I did talk about the vulnerability in the educational institutions. Maybe we'll come to that and understand.
We'll talk more on that.
The vulnerabilities and what we can do to reduce those vulnerabilities.
Okay.